This weekend's gospel reading from John chapter 12 tells us that we will always have poor among us. Should this fact that poverty, hunger, and injustice always be part of our world give us an easy out? Should it allow us to merely resign ourselves to believing that if these iniquities will always exist, there is no point in attempting to solve the problems of the world? Of course not. Long before Jesus' ministry and the Gospel of John was written, we are told the same message. But in this verse in Deuteronomy, it is followed by a call to action. Verse 11 begins with, "There will always be poor people in the land." But it continues with, "Therefore, I command you to be open-handed toward your fellow Israelites who are poor and needy in your land." If we are truly the people of God, then we are called to be in community with neighbors who have been marginalized, excluded, oppressed, and impoverished by the world's injustice. As church, our calling is not merely to minister to our neighbors, but to bear witness to the new thing God is doing in our world, a new community God is making possible. As a congregation, we bear witness to this new community in so many ways. This past weekend was the first weekend of our diaper drive, and already our church office is filled with boxes of diapers to be donated to Lutheran Social Services. This coming Saturday, members of our congregation will join others in the valley to build beds for those in need with the Sleep in Heavenly Peace Foundation. Every week, the Cut-Ups group give their time to make quilts and other items to be donated or gifted, not just to church members, but to members of the community. Last year, we freely offered the use of our facilities to Moon Valley Bible Church when they were in a time of need after their facilities were damaged in the storm. All of these do not include the many other ways in which we as a congregation and individuals support the causes we fight for. What's more, our strategic plan will help us to identify more ways in which we can engage those in our community. Earlier, I asked you how we should respond to John chapter 12, verse 8, and the realization that inequity will always be part of this world. The question I should have asked is one a fellow student of mine asked in January. How do we maintain our hope and desire to help in these circumstances when we know that the struggle that has already lasted so long will continue to endure? We keep an eye on the lives we can and are changing now. We may not be able to solve every problem and help every individual in need, and if we could, we would not need to rely on God. But we can help where we are able and impact those lives in our sphere. As the devotional for this week says, accompanying neighbors as they confront the systems of injustice means facing harsh realities with realistic perspectives. This is not false realism, rather the realistic acknowledgement that we face our own journey in the wilderness before we reach the fullness of God's promise. We have a long way to go, but we are not going alone. Let's close in prayer. God of the poor widow, the lost sheep, and the wandering heir man, God of the hungry, the thirsty, and the stranger, God of the naked, the ill, and the imprisoned, we confess before you that the church has not always been where you have called us to be. We have failed to seek your face in our neighbors in need. We have allowed despair to bind our hands and feet. Change us, O God. Free us to act with hope and courage. Open our hearts to perceive your presence in and among our neighbors. Inflame us with holy passion for the work you invite us to in the world. Breathe new life into your church, that we may be the people you call us to be in the world you call into being. A church of the poor widow, the lost sheep, and the wandering heir man. A church of the hungry, the thirsty, and the stranger. A church of the naked, the ill, and the imprisoned. Do a new thing with us and through us, that we may be a community of hope, comfort, and welcome. A living sign of the way we are making in the wilderness. Amen.